It is time for a new segment, one that I'm quite excited about. We're going to be unpacking the business of ...
Yes, we're going to look at some interesting business models and industries and try and understand how they work so we can become, I guess, more informed and better investors.
And today we're unpacking the business of NFL, but specifically driven by some news that private equity are now allowed to invest in NFL teams.
Yeah, so I think let's set the scene before we get to the news of the day. The NFL is the crown jewel of professional sports.
Yeah.
It has the highest valuations, and this isn't just in America, this is globally. The highest valuations and the largest ad revenue, especially ad revenue per game. In 2021, they signed a TV rights deal, 11 years, $110 billion. For comparison, this year, the NBA signed an 11-year, $76 billion deal. Now, we've pulled out the per game numbers because the NBA has 1,230 regular season games. So that works out to be 5.6 million per regular season game.
Yeah.
The NFL does 272 regular season games. So 36.8 million per regular season game over that 11-year period. So 7 times more than the NBA per game. It is just crazy.
Yeah.
English Premier League second. Indian Premier League is also up there, but no one touches the NFL.
Yeah.
To put it another way, of the top 100 TV broadcasts in the US last year, the top 42 were NFL games or NFL-related programming.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think that is the context for this whole story.
Wow. Even higher than... Wow. Well, there you go. As I said at the top, the news is that private equity is in the game. Now, traditionally, NFL has required that owners be real people.
Yes. So it couldn't be a company.
Couldn't be a company, can't be private equity. It needs to be the big bad billionaires who can just come in and take ownership of these incredibly valuable sports teams.
Yeah. Side note as well is that the way it worked is that all other 31 owners had to approve the owner.
Imagine the politics in that.
Yeah, like the most exclusive club to get into.
Just a billionaires club. But now the NFL are allowing firms to buy a stake of up to 10% of the common equity of individual teams. Now, they must invest at least $2 billion. They must hold stakes for at least 6 years, which I think is a good rule to, I guess, avoid just trading in and out and pumping and dumping. And they're capped at investing in 6 teams. And the NFL has an approved list of private equity firms that can invest.
Yeah, and this approved list are deep in sports already because private equity has come for professional sports. Some of the names that have been approved, to give you a sense of where they are also playing, Ares, which is like a $400 billion fund manager, massive. They've invested in Chelsea in the Premier League and Inter Miami, their football team in the US. Arctos has stakes in the NBA's Golden State Warriors and in the Major League Baseball's Boston Red Sox. Sixth Street has invested in the San Antonio Spurs and the Spanish football team Real Madrid. And Dynasty owns a minority stake in English football club Liverpool.
Yeah.
So they're global pro sports investors.
Imagine the lobbying going on behind the scenes for some private equity players to get onto that list.
Oh, wild.
Yeah. I think it's very smart from the NFL to do that.
Well, before we talk about why the NFL would do it and what it can tell us about the business of professional sports, let's just quickly explain why private equity would do it. And this is where we introduced how good an investment professional sports has been. And we've spoken about it before. We'll speak about it again. So just to illustrate the point, I'll give you one example.
Okay.
Phoenix Suns, the NBA team, there was a private equity player, Dial Home Court Partners. They bought a minority stake in the Phoenix Suns in 2021 for $1.5 billion. When the team changed ownership in 2023, so 2 years later, Dial Home Court made an 158% return in 2 years. Yeah.
Wow.
So the valuations of professional sports teams have been exploding lately. And a lot of it has been driven by TV rights deals, but it's just it's a scarcity premium as well.
Yeah, that's the thing.
There's only 30 NBA teams. There's only 32 NFL teams. There's 20 English Premier League teams, but really you want one of the big 6. So it's just they're all so scarce and go up for sale so rarely.
Yes.
That,
yes.
and every time there's a sale, valuations just jump.
Yes.
Yeah.
Scarcity, and now all they're doing is adding fuel to the fire with an increase in demand, with all these equity players now allowed to have a crack.
Yeah.
I mean,
so yeah,
this
not
is only going to push things up even
not
further.
in the NFL, but like in all these other sports. You're right. It's like
Yeah.
this whole new pool of buyers.
Huge cash. Yeah. Not like the billionaires ever had a problem buying them, but
So this is where the story gets interesting, and it gives us an insight into the business of pro sports. Because you say the billionaires have never had a problem buying the teams.
okay.
But these billionaires do have problems. And this move is
I feel so sorry for them.
and this move is an insight into the problems that they're facing. Because a lot of these sports teams owners are asset rich but cash poor. That is the story that is emerging here, and that's what we need to understand about
The Elon
this.
Musk effect.
Sure. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
was that. He's well known to be incredibly asset rich and like very cash poor.
Yeah. So
For context.
yeah, thank you. So to give you a sense, first of all, like these teams don't print profit. Like the way that
Yes,
they've increased
yeah.
valuations is capital growth, not dividends, to relate it back to all of our investing. To give you a sense, in 2022, the Walmart heir, Rob Walton, bought the Denver Broncos for $4.6 billion. And then a year later, 2023, Josh Harris bought the Washington Commanders for $6 billion. Now, Sportico have calculated the average profit for an NFL team, $137 million. So based on the Washington Commanders valuation, it's like a 2% earnings yield. So not a lot of profit for the price that you're paying for the asset.
Yeah.
You know, you could buy Commonwealth Bank and get like 5% dividends.
Yeah.
But these guys, So that's they're not printing cash, and that 2% earnings yield for the NFL is actually like best in class for pro sports. If we look at the English Premier League, we could get data from the 2021-2022 season. Only 7 of the 20 top flight EPL teams were profitable, and some of the biggest clubs make the biggest losses.
Yeah.
And that's because of player transfer markets.
Yeah. Not all billionaires are looking for assets to park cash that spin off yields.
Yeah.
Like you think what they do with property, and I mean mainly property or other real assets. But there's so many other reasons you're buying an NFL team as well.
Yeah, it's prestige. There's some
getting in the
quote,
club.
that it's like there's the closest thing to royalty in America is a sports team owner. But the thing is, like, these are cash hungry businesses to run.
Yeah.
Because like just the cash demands on like how much you're paying. If you're doing guaranteed contracts now, you've got to like escrow that money, and so you need cash to do that. That's been a big story with the Cleveland Browns quarterback. But the problem is it's hard to get capital. So like the NFL, for example, have rules about how much owners can borrow, and they don't want too much debt. I think for existing owners, it's like 700 million cap. For new owners, it's like 1.2 billion or something like that. But you can't go to a bank and borrow against the value of your sports team.
Right.
So like that avenue is kind of cut off. And then it's tough to raise capital from equity investors because you can get individuals to do it. And like there's a long list of celebrities that have minority stakes in sports teams. But you know, you need the approval of the other owners and all of that. And then it's been tough to get, and there's only so many like rich people that want minority stakes in sports teams.
Yeah.
And then you haven't been able to go to these institutional investors like private equity because that's been blocked off.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason that they're doing this, because so many of these owners are asset rich but cash poor, and they've got demands to like renovate their stadiums and do all this stuff. And they just need money.
And so this is where they can go to the private equity guys now and say, what was it, up to $2 billion?
Yeah,
is
up to
what
$2
they
billion.
can invest.
Yeah.
Take a stake, give us the cash.
Yeah.
Let's get on with it.
Yeah, and Greg Penner, who's the chair of Walmart and part of the ownership group of the Denver Broncos, he explicitly said it. There's this quote where it was like, it gives owners a different option for capital sources, and then like blah, 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 maintains how we operate, core ethos, all of that. But like that is the game.
Yes.
A different option for capital sources. That's why they're doing it. And I think as we close this business of out, the best example of this is actually not from the NFL,
Nice.
but from the NBA.
Cubes.
Mark Cuban.
Yeah.
So he bought the Dallas Mavericks after he sold his company,
Internet business or whatever it
broadcast.com,
was.
and then
Yeah,
shorted the shit out of it and doubled his money.
Yeah.
Different story for a different day. But he bought the Dallas Mavericks and loves the Mavs,
Yeah.
loves them so much. Courtside every game, is seen as one of the best owners. But he sold a majority stake in the Mavs.
Yeah.
And the reason he sold it is because the demands of what professional sports is going to require, and his sort of view on where it's going is that right now the majority of the money they make is from sport TV rights, but over time he reckons it'll be more from real estate and sort of like associated services around the stadium.
Yeah.
And he envisages like a Las Vegas style resort and entertainment destination in which the stadium is just one part of it.
Right.
So you go to like Mavs Casino
Big
and you
money.
stay there and you watch the game, but you
Yeah,
also do
yeah.
a whole bunch of other stuff. And to be frank, he doesn't have that kind of money.
Yeah.
So he sold a majority stake to Miriam Adelson, who is the owner of the Las Vegas Sands Resort.
Yes.
Because they've got that money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And managed to keep ownership control as well.
Yeah, he's got 27% stake, but
Yeah.
he maintains control of basketball operations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing deal.
Yeah.
Fascinating to what's playing out. I think the caps around it are interesting in that it shouldn't change the way that the clubs are run and the demands on it.
It won't. Yeah, it shouldn't. No, you wouldn't think it will change much, but I think it's an interesting insight into how these businesses operate. Don't feel too sorry for them.
No, I don't. Nothing at all.
Equity line.
I will say this about investing. Everything you do learn is cumulative. What I learned at 20 is useful.